And so it begins. Unit 4 of Algebra 1. We're talking about equations, specifically linear ones, and graphing them. In this first lesson, lesson 1, we're going to be talking about graphing equations in slope-intercept form. In lesson 2, we're going to talk about how to write equations in slope-intercept form. So let's dive in and take care of business. So we're going to jump in by first of all explaining what is the slope-intercept form of a line. So slope-intercept form. Oops, because I can spell. Of a line is y equals mx plus b. So that's the slope-intercept form of a line. Y and x are just y and x, right? Now, excuse me, when we look here, m, as we've said before, represents the slope, the rate of change, right? The rise over run. The rise over the run. The difference of the y's over the difference of the x's, the slope. M is the slope. If m is the slope, and this is called the slope-intercept form of line, it would stand to reason, and you'd be correct if you assumed that b is the intercept. It is, in fact, the y-intercept. Now, remember, what is the y-intercept? It is where our graph crosses the y-axis, the vertical axis, right? Okay, so that is the slope-intercept form of a line. Now, let's look at how to get the slope-intercept form of a line and how to graph from it with an example, right? So let's get a grid on there and let's get an example. So our first example is we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line with a slope, excuse me, of 3/4 and a y-intercept of -2. Then we're going to graph the equation, right? So this one is actually really quite straightforward because it gives us the slope and it gives us the y-intercept. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about how to, if they don't give us those two things, how to solve for them and then get it in slope-intercept form. But for this one, they just kind of hand it to us. So as a reminder, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So we're just going to plug in these numbers. The slope goes where m goes. So it's going to be y equals 3/4 x plus b. So b is -2, so we're going to do -2. There it is. There's the equation. Then we're supposed to graph the equation. So it's really easy to graph from slope-intercept form. All we do to graph from slope-intercept form is we start out by putting a dot at the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is -2, so we're going to go down from the origin. We're going to count down 1, 2, and we're going to put a dot. And then we're going to count from that point, and we're going to count using the slope. Now remember, slope is rise over run, right? So we're going to look at how far we go up and then how far we go over. So from this point, from our intercept point, we're going to count up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to put a dot. Right? And then we can do that again. We can go up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can put a dot. Now, we had room on this grid to fit all those dots. Now, what if you don't? What if your grid, especially on a quiz or a test or something like that, is too small? Well, instead of it, what we can do is we can flip both of them. So we went up and over, right? So what we can do is instead of going up and over, we can go down and back. Right? So we can go down 1, 2, 3, back 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so see, it makes the same line. So then all we have to do is we have to connect those dots. I'm going to stick another one on here because it's going to make my life a little bit easier. And then we connect the dots. We're going to put arrows on it to represent it going on forever and ever. So there's the equation of y equals 3/4 x minus 2. That's not that big a deal, right? So let's do another example. Very similar. We're just going to do 2 examples in this video, in this lesson. So our second example is we're going to graph y equals 3x plus 2y equals 6. Then we're going to state the slope and the y-intercept. So we could graph this like what we did in the last unit and find the both intercepts by plugging zeros in, and that would be a perfectly acceptable way to do it. What we're going to do instead, though, is we're going to take this line and we're going to turn it into slope-intercept form. So we're starting with 3x plus 2y equals 6, right? So we want to get this into slope-intercept form. So what do we have to do? We have to solve for y. So it's pretty easy to solve for y. We're just going to first of all move this 3x over, right? So to move this 3x over, we'd subtract it, right? 3x minus 3x equals 0, so it's going to disappear on this side. We need it to reappear on this side, so minus 3x. And so we're going to bring down the 2y, right? I'm shifting it over a little bit so I have enough room on my kind of blackboard over here, right? 2x equals, I'm also going to, instead of 6 minus 3x, I'm going to write negative 3x plus 6. So I'm just using that commutative property, right, to switch the order of these two terms, because we're for slope-intercept form, we're used to having that x be the leading term there. And so that's why we're doing that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to divide this 2 off. So we're going to divide it on this side, and then we're going to divide it on this side as well. So you notice that we're dividing everything on this side by 2. That's really important. Whenever we do multiplication or division on both sides, you have to make sure you're doing everything by that. So on the left side, they cancel out, right? Leaving us with just y right there. So then negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 3 halves, right? That's not that big a deal. Negative 3 halves x. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3, so it's plus 3. So the slope of this line, I'm going to kind of answer this a little bit backwards. Excuse me. The slope of this line is the m part, the one next to the x, so it is negative 3 halves. And the y-intercept is the b part, so it's 3. Okay, so there's those bits and bobs, right? Bits and pieces. Let's graph the thing. So we're going to do just like we did on the last one. We're going to put a dot at the y-intercept. So a dot at that 3. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And put a dot. And then we're going to count the slope. Now this time it's negative. So instead of going up and over, we're going to go down and over, right? So down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Now, just like before, I want to highlight that if we didn't have, we do have room, but if we didn't have room, then we could reverse both of those things. So we could go up and back, right? So up 3, 1, 2, 3, and back 2, and put a dot, right? And then we're going to connect those dots. And then we've got a pretty line hanging out right there. So there's the line y equals negative 3x plus 3. And that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to do some algebra stuff, getting the lines and slope, the equations of lines and slope-intercept form from points and other things and all kinds of stuff. You'll see when you get there. Thank you guys for watching. If you're one of my students, I'll see you in class. Thanks for watching. Do your homework, all the things. If you're not one of my students, you can check out emberlearninglabs.com for everything else we're doing. Don't forget to like and comment what else we can help you with, and subscribe. It helps us out. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.